Welcome to Resilience Development in Action, where strength meets strategy and courage to help you move forward. Each week, your host, Steve Bisson, a therapist with over 2 decades of experience in the first responder community, brings you powerful conversations about resilience, growth, and healing through trauma and grief. Through authentic interviews, expert discussions, and real-world experiences, we dive deep into the heart of human resilience. We explore crucial topics like trauma recovery, grief processing, stress management, and emotional well-being. This is Resilience Development in Action with Steve Bisson.
Hi, and welcome to episode 222. If you haven't listened to episode 221, go back and listen. It's with my buddy and my business partner, Bill Dwinells. It was a great interview, so please go back and listen to it. But episode 222 will be with Adam Neff. Adam Neff is someone who was in the fire service for about 38 years and is currently working as an LPC and a consultant as well as a trainer. He's focused on emergency responders as a whole. I'm sure that he'll talk about that. And he was referred to me through a group that I belong to. So hopefully you guys will get a great interview. I like a guy with service and mental health combined because I think that's a unique perspective. So here's the interview. GetFree.ai. You heard me talk about it. I'm going to keep on talking about it because I love it. I've had about a year and a half, 18 months practice with it, and I still enjoy it. And it saves me time and it saves me energy. Free.ai takes your note, makes what you're talking with a client, just press record. And it does either transcript, it does a subjective and an objective with a letter if needed for your client and for whoever might need it. So for $99 a month, it saves me so much time that it's worthwhile. And if you do it for a whole year, guess what? You get 10% off. More importantly, this is what you got to remember because you are my audience that listens to Resilience Development in Action. If you do listen to this and you want to use free.ai, put in the code STEVE50 in the promo code area, STEVE50, and you will get $50 off in addition to everything we just talked about. Get freed from writing your notes. Get freed from even writing your transcripts. Use that to your advantage. Free.ai, a great service. Go to getfree.ai and you will get one of the best services that will save you time and money. And I highly encourage you to do so. Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 222. I connected with this gentleman over Facebook, I believe, and I love this story. And, there's nothing like what, resilience development in action is about the psychology of first responders, essentially. And what Adam Neff is a former firefighter for 30 years who now has his license. What do they call him? Professional counseling, I believe.
Yeah, licensed professional counselor.
So in Massachusetts, we have a different name. They're all acronyms. You forget about them at one point. But yes, right. I'm like, my God, this is like the perfect guest for my audience. So Adam, welcome to Resilience Development in Action.
Thank you. I appreciate being here and the opportunity to leave it better than I found it.
We were talking about it earlier. I can't wait for you guys. He's launching his website. He launched it in August, right? So yep. you guys can go to a brand new website with a lot of information. We'll definitely talk about that, but I just want to mention that right off the top. And for those of you who don't listen regularly, it'll be in the show notes, but I always try to connect my audience to the people who are here. But, I got to talk to you beforehand. We talked about how sweaty we were in 95-degree heat, but
not together though. Not together. It's for clarity.
Yes, the saunas are done separately, but we enjoy them nonetheless. Oh, sorry, is that too much again? But anyway, perfect. And there's something called time zones that really affect us for being able to have that sauna together. So, but that's okay, man. One day I'll go to Missouri, and I promised a friend of mine in Missouri to go visit one day. So maybe I'll meet you there. But let's avoid the saunas just in case. But all joking aside, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm a licensed professional counselor. I've been doing that now for about 3 years. Before that, I was in the fire service. Spent 7 years as a cadet volunteer, and then got hired full time in a small department in my hometown, worked my way up. And when I left, I was the assistant chief of operations and training and transitioned to the mental health world. So there's a lot more within that 30-year career, obviously, but really proud of one of the things that I started about 13 years ago. I founded the Springfield Area Memorial Stair Climb. It's a memorial stair climb for those that were killed on 9/11. And I officially turned that over to the next coordinator, if you will, a couple years ago. So I founded and led that for 10 years. And when I started it, it was me and my wife and the kitchen table, just putting it together. And when I left, there was, man, 10 coordinators handling different sections of the event and 60 volunteers every year that come in to help us set up and tear down, and thousands of climbers over the years. So that's probably one of my more highlighted things in my career.
That's really awesome. Was there a particular attachment to 9/11 for you?
Legitimately, it was just one of those things where I was in the shower and thinking I needed to do more for the fire service. And what could I do that wasn't already being done in my area? And the originally thing started as doing something to support a brother that had been diagnosed with MS.
Mm.
And in our area, bike rides are a big thing for MS. And that kind of just evolved into doing the stair climb. And I really thought, man, if my own crew shows up that first year, I'll be happy. And
Right.
unfortunately, we had a local line of duty deaths just a month before our first stair climb. So, in conjunction with the money we raised for the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation, we also raised money on the local level for Matt Blankenship. So,
Hmm. Well, I'm sorry about
yeah,
the line of doubt. It's unfortunate that it's so common in your field and
yeah,
certainly happens a lot. The one question I came up with when I was listening to what you said, I'm like, you know, I don't know, like I know firefighters, and no disrespect to my cop friends, but firefighters tend to be a little closer to their emotions than the police. I think talking around the table and all that makes it a lot easier, and shitting on people's chili and stuff like that is even better. But
right.
at the end of the day, I think there's a lot more talkative, the more talkative bunch. But what made you decide one day, gee willikers, I want to do this for a living? I mean, to me, like it's not exactly the glamour transfer from fire to mental health. I'm not bitching about my job, guys. Before you send all the fucking letters, I love my
Yeah,
job, but it's not exactly like, oh, what's the second lowest paid masters? That's what I'm going to do. What
that's
made you?
what I'm going to do. What
What's that?
is the student loan debt to
Yeah,
income ratio? Oh, that's
that,
the one.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to do philosophy. That would
Um,
be too crazy.
right. Yeah. And looking at a PhD program here recently, I said, "Oh, look, I can get another master's along the way." And my wife's like, "What are you going to do with a third master's?" And I'm like, "That's a great point. I don't know how I made the jump. It's interesting. I always really kind of prided myself when I was on the apparatus, being aggressive, and the best way to be safe on the fire ground is to be smart and aggressive. And really kind of prided myself on not only saying, hey, this is not only the only way to do it, this is just a way. Up until I had one of my company officers, I'd gotten promoted to battalion chief and been a battalion for a while. And one of my company officers, we just got done with our Ahmed fitness evaluations for the year. For a lot of us, that's the only time we went to the doctor. I don't need to get my own primary care doctor. I got one that comes to the firehouse. We're set.
Right.
Um,
I mean,
and
and
I'm also not
firefighters,
paying extra money.
right.
What's that?
I was going to say that firefighters live such a healthy lifestyle with their eating and their
Yep.
behaviors and everything else. So I know,
Yep.
I know you don't need it. I understand.
Tactical athletes. See, that's
Yeah, exactly.
so Ahmed doctor comes in, we do our normal thing. My company officer, it's about 11 o'clock at night. When I was on shift, I held all of my stuff towards the end of the day so I could interact with the crews and stuff. And he comes in and says, yeah, I kind of want to talk to you. And so close the door, and we have a great relationship. And he tells me that he's thinking about killing himself. Whoa.
Right.
Now, I really prided myself on being able to help firefighters navigate time management issues, performance issues. This was not on my realm. So we kind of talked a little bit, and I said, "Did you mention it to the doc?" And he said, "Oh yeah, yeah." He pulled out his suicide checklist out of his wallet,
Sorry for rolling
went
my eyes, but
went through the list, patted my guy on the shoulder, and said, "You should probably go talk to somebody." So my desire to be supportive and helpful for him, knowing how big this was, and this, mind you, is circa 2016 ish.
okay.
So I start doing a little research, start doing a little reading, a little finding out what I can find out, and I kind of stumble onto the fact that I have a bit of a mental health problem myself. So that kind of got me on a path, and always in my career, I've really enjoyed the training side and created and was a lead instructor for a regional training academy here with other area departments and my own crews, my own departments, creating developmental plans, helping people be successful at the next levels. So frustrated of the repetitive issues that the these folks aren't ready for the next level. Oh, I guess we'll just magically just hope it'll get better. So I looked at that, and that's really where I kind of got my basis at for a lot of my things, and really just have a unique opportunity or perspective, I should say, to take really complex concepts and make them easy to understand for everybody. I use it in my sessions regularly because not everyone speaks therapies. And if you can understand a little bit of this, it's not overly complicated. I'm not a I'm not a gatekeeper. I share with my clients as much as I can, as much as they want, especially my emergency responder clients. They want to active participate. I have no business telling people what to do in sessions, but I can help you if you're open to it. And if you're not, that's okay. I'm just going to poke you and challenge you and build a relationship with you. But I did all that in the fire service too. So all those things really felt kind of normal and natural to me. And people asked me if I was going to go the peer route, maybe. And as soon as I had my mindset on it, I was going to be a LPC, which is what they are here in Missouri. So that kind of how I got started. Um, and I would agree with you, and certainly not a weird competition of traumatic shit, but in my experience, both taking classes, working with clients, I think the misconception is because the fire service works in teams, we talk about our feelings a lot, and
No.
we do use that fire service language to start processing that, but I work with way more other disciplines than I do with the fire service.
And it's also like, I again, I think that what I'm Adam, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm pretty sure that's what you would have said. We're all for peer support networks.
Yep.
We're all for crisis intervention, stress management. We're all for that. But there's also other stuff that's needed. And that's what
Yep.
I want to make sure because I've heard people say, well, you push therapy, and I have a program I work with that's a little different. Like, oh, so you
Yeah.
don't like peer support? No, I never said that. I just said that peer support ain't for everyone. That's all. And my program may not be for anyone else. And that is fine too. It's
Mm-hmm.
making sure that you have more options than less. So that I'm going to put that out there. And I think that that's what, our emergency medical personnel in general, whether it be police, fire, I include my ER nurses, my correctional staff in there, and even some of the emergency crisis clinicians that I've worked with. And let's not forget my friends, the EMT and paramedic and dispatch. They all have that problem of, I don't have enough options. Well, I'm going to give you a shitload of options and you better take one of them. So that's what I want to make sure I mention, because I know you probably feel the same way, because I never want us to be perceived as putting down one program over the other.
No,
Um,
I'm just merely, and I appreciate the clarity, merely sharing my own personal experience as
oh,
to
I didn't get
why.
that from you for the record. I
Yeah,
just want to put it out there because,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think more options are better than less.
yeah, I mean,
And
and then when you have a doctor, this is where one of the things I emphasize in pretty much all my podcasts is that you need cultural competency. And if Adam came to me and said privately, Steve, I think I'm suicidal, the worst thing I could ever do to Adam is grab a sheet and go, okay, what's your symptoms? And like right away, Adam will shut down because I just proved that I have no competency. And instead of inquiring about the real stuff, you inquired about what is going to make the checklist. And one of the things I know that a lot of firefighters, police, and everyone else I just talked about in the EMT world, that's what they despise. Who has a pad and the paper and asking the questions that are rehearsed? I don't know if that's your experience, but that's certainly my experience.
It is certainly my experience on the receiving end as a firefighter seeking mental health. And I also, to prove your point, and I think it's really important to share this, I still refer to that therapist because they are a good therapist for a lot of people.
Right.
This not a good therapy, not for what I needed.
Correct.
So I took a break, maybe longer than I probably should, because if anyone's going to win therapy, I mean, I know you can't win therapy, but if we can, it's going to be me. So it's kind of one of those things where I took a break and really just tried to be more intentional, more curious, try to ask myself the questions that the therapist, the certified first responder, extraordinaire therapist didn't ask. And I was also spending time about why those questions were important to me. So, yeah.
Right. And I think you talked, and I'm happy you did that. You were there for that firefighter that needed the support. And, I know many firefighters and police and everyone else who have been there for their colleagues that way. And shout out to all of you, because while you're good at what you do, you're not fucking trained into doing that. And so from my perspective, thank you for you and anyone who I know and I don't know listening to this right now, because that's one hell of a challenge. I'm trained into that stuff, but it's still once in a while we're like, oh, it's a punch in the face once in a while. And I can handle it. Don't get me wrong. But, doesn't mean that it's not a punch in the face.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like you said, you've been in, the part that I, like what I find interesting is you said you've been in therapy.
Yeah.
And you've had some bad experiences, obviously.
Ooh.
Not that they were bad therapists, but this is what I tell people. I just said bad experience. I didn't say bad therapist. I have a lot of colleagues that don't do my job, but they're excellent therapists. But they can handle a first responder making a joke about them, saying that it's unprofessional, where I fucking laugh because I know it's part of the exchange with the guy. And that's not something you know this or you don't. And that's it. That's just that simple. I started in the police service when I was doing the mental health part. I've never been again, those who are new to the podcast, I don't steal valor, never been a first responder, but I sat in many vehicles. And the guy once said to me as the best advice, he's like, if someone made a joke or something, and he's like, hey, they like you. I was like, how do you know? They're making fun of you. If they don't fucking like you, they will not talk to you. And then that's when you should be nervous. It always stuck with me that's what is a good indication. So when my clients come in and make fun of me, I know that means, all right, I've got them. They know I'm on their side. It's when they start getting silent and being super serious. And I'm like, oh shit, I lost them.
Maybe.
Right. What do you mean by that though? I want to hear your point of view on that. What do you mean? Maybe?
Yeah. I always say maybe because I never want to assign or pass a judgment. I want to be more curious. And they may shut down because they lost me, but they also may be shutting down because they're getting ready to tell me something really hard that we've been working towards. Right. So if I have a little nugget that I like to pass on to people, particularly other therapists that work with this population, and I'm a big fan of saying what I see and see what I get. If I have a feeling about something, I'm just going to ask. I'd rather just ask and let you tell me, and not just your words. It has your body language, your gaze, your everything. I'm looking at all of it. Right. Because if it's too hard to tell me and I don't offer you respite, the work is going to come slow. But I don't have to leave my people that I work with in the ditch for us to do good work. Right. We don't have to always talk about the really hard stuff because I'm here for all of it. I want you to tell me what you don't think is important enough for therapy. No, I want to hear all of it. So, yeah, that's why I say maybe.
And I think that, I think you're absolutely right, by the way. Thank you for correcting me on that. It makes sense to me. The other part, too, is I'm a big hockey fan. I'm in the Northeast here in Massachusetts. A lot of the firefighter first responders in general, they tend to be sports fan. We I'm a Montreal Canadiens fan because I'm born and raised in Montreal. So in Boston, it's not always popular.
Okay.
Uh, but when we exchange for that for 20 minutes, sometimes we'll get little nuggets of who they are. Oh, I used to go to a game right before my beating from my dad, and like, oh, okay, dad beat me, and I'm exaggerating, but you get the point.
Yeah.
Even in talking about, I call it the round table. We're just shooting the shit.
Yep.
You get information if you're a good therapist.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what's important too, because if I sat there and I told a first responder, please tell me more about your feelings, they'll be like, yeah, I'm pretty good at fucking masking that shit. Wrong question. Next.
And honestly, if in total transparency, I think that's when I look back on that because I knew you was going to ask me that question about therapy and navigating some other groups in Facebook. And I think you and I are in the same clinicians for first responder groups. I was really kind of reflecting on that experience because I knew that question was going to come up. And now looking back on it, I know what it was for me. I didn't want to let that therapist down.
Mm,
I was doing the same thing I was doing in the firehouse.
wow.
Like I was sharing some things just enough and colluding with him. So the shortcoming for me in that relationship or in that and I want to be clear, he is a very skilled and a very talented and is very gracious and generous with his time and experience with our field and this particular area. For me, I needed him to be maybe a little more therapist-y and a little less focused on the relationship because, and this will be something for our therapist listeners who work in this population. We already have a lot of trust built up because Bob told me he was good. I'm going to him because I trust fucking Bob.
Right.
I don't need you to sit there and go, oh man, you guys do such a good job. I sure do love the fire departers. I don't need all that because I've already got that. That's why I'm here.
Thank you. You're America's heroes. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Here's a cookie. Great. Thank you. It's kind of like here in the Midwest. If I let you out in traffic, don't take the extra time to wave at me. Just fucking go. Just go. I've already let you out. Thank you. You're
Oh,
welcome. Yeah,
thank you.
just
No, no,
fucking
go,
go.
go, go.
Yeah, go, go, go. I got places I'd like to go. But in that experience, I needed him to be more curious. I needed him to ask more questions. I needed him to say, why after 30 years, why does this call fucking you up?
Right.
Why now? And it was, oh, well, because I'm an Enneagram 8 and because I already am pretty self-aware because of my own experiences. And I didn't know that at the time. I just knew I was really self-aware, but I didn't know why. And once he hit the target and once we kind of reprocessed, we were so good in therapy that 2.5 sessions later, he was like, you look like you're doing pretty good. Do you need to stay the whole hour? And I was just getting ready to start at my first job as a therapist. And I said, honestly, Doc, I paid for the whole hour. Won't you tell me what I'm getting ready to get into and give me some of your perspective and insight? And so we bullshitted the last half hour. And he says, well, if you want to come back, you can just reach out to me. And I said, let's just go ahead and make an appointment for a month out just to see.
My therapist is brilliant, and I haven't stolen this one yet, but this is my favorite one. Whether you're thinking about coming in weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, and he knows I've been with him for years, and he knows I know his trick. But what he does is like, do you want to reschedule?
Yeah.
And one day I'm like, why would I not want to reschedule? I'm a fucked up human being. I need help.
Mm.
And he's like, yeah, but that gave you a choice.
Yep.
And I'm like, fuck, that's really good. So usually I still say, when do you want to reschedule? But I really want to change that because, the other part too, with particularly, again, our group of first responders, giving them choices sometimes can be much more empowering than anything else.
That's honestly, I mean, if we were to speak several months ago, that probably would have been helpful and saved me a lot of money in therapy because that's how long it took me to kind of come to
Okay.
that. I want choice. I want my clients to have choice. It's really important for me to have choice.
Right.
And what I like, and I say something similar to that is, do you want to come back?
Yeah. See, that's perfect.
Do you want to come back? Because I operate a lot from an intersubjective space. I'm very relational in the room. I don't give advice. It's not my business to give you advice. If you come into my office and said, I'm going to jump out the window and I'm going to aim for the bushes because I think I can make it. And Adam would say, can I share a perspective though? Because there might be some things you might not have considered.
Right.
And a lot of times, a lot of our emergency responders, a lot of I say normal, the general populace operates on a right or wrong spectrum.
Called
It's the
civilians.
Yeah, civilians. Yeah, the others. The this will get some of the listeners, the muggles. Okay. Can we call can we call them muggles? Okay.
I like that.
Yeah, yeah. But I think we operate on this spectrum of good and bad. And when things don't quite align all good or all bad, we get kind of discombobulated in our system. And we can notice that feeling. And somatics has been a huge assistance for my clients, especially the emergency responders. And I teach them everything that I've been taught just as going to a conference. So if it is helpful for them, I want them to be able to use it. And it's been huge. It's been huge. So somatics.
I think somatics, I want to get back to that. The other part too, you talked about body language. I'm just
Yeah.
going to share, but I want to get back to semantics. Is I started my job years ago. I worked at a parole office with the parolees, and they're not exactly the most I want to talk to you type. But what I learned is to read body language extremely well. And lo and behold, whenever I make a observation about their body, again, I read a lot. But once I read the body language, they were able to talk more because I picked up on the body language.
Yeah.
And I think that that's so key as a good therapist to also pick it up. You know, like, oh, let's talk about your parents. And if for you, those of you who are not on YouTube, I'll dictate what I just did. Shoulder slump. Okay, I hit a nerve. Let's talk
Yep.
about it. And I'm exaggerating. It's not always that. Sometimes it's subtle. But
Yeah.
I believe that body language is also important. But I want to hear more about somatic because for my audience, somatic, that sounds like a psychobabble word, in my opinion.
It does.
But maybe let's break down the psychobabble bullshit into something real. Can you tell me more about it?
Yeah. So when we think about somatics, we just really want to think about our body. How does our body feel? And the very famous book that I recommend a lot for my emergency responder clients, who, just for clarity, is Police, Fire, Pre-Hospital Care, and Telecommunicators. And as you eloquently put, there's a lot of people that can fit in that classification. I typically don't use a generalization if I'm talking to a specific group, but I think it is important to. I'm not talking about ER nurses or social workers or people that respond outside of that first 15-minute window of an emergency. But when we are navigating difficult feelings or difficult situations or experiencing, sitting here on your podcast, you probably notice me shifting around a lot in my chair. It's not my favorite chair. I'm in my home office. But also, I was noticing some emotion because I didn't really want to let go of tears within the first 10 minutes of the podcast.
We're
I
10
just
past
took,
10 minutes. Start crying.
yeah. I just took a deep breath because I could feel it coming up right here. And as you were talking, I'm noticing this feeling in my chest going, well, why do I feel this? And this is real time. I've done this long enough to know, okay, why am I feeling this way? Because I don't want anybody to think less of me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go, yeah, that's not a real thing. And even if they do think less of you, I don't really care. Right.
I like the words, then what? But anyway.
Yeah. Well, actually, I do care. And that's where it starts, is recognizing my own shit to where it begins with. I do care. I do want you to think that I'm good. I do want you to think that I know what I'm talking about and I can impact the community, both emergency responder and the clinician world. But that judgment may or may not come, but that's going to come from me doing, not how I'm presenting. So the challenge in that aspect is noticing the feeling, because that's the check engine light for our body. If our check engine light comes on in our car, we don't slow down. unless we think we can make it, and then floor that son of a gun, and we were going to make it. But when we see that check engine light come on our dash, we kind of scroll all of our gauges on our dash. And that's what I'm communicating to people, is that when you notice that feeling in your chest, your stomach, your jaw, your shoulders, I want you to slow down and go, man, I'm at home. I'm in the safest place in my world and my environment. Why am I feeling anxious right now? So I take a big polyvagal breath, 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out, like I'm blowing through a straw. You can call it tactical polyvagal breath if you want, I guess, if that makes people feel better. And I start slowing myself down because my body can get me amped up if I need to. My breath can get me amped up if I need to. I'm getting jacked. I'm ready to go. But I can also slow myself down by being very intentional with my breath. So I notice the feeling. The feeling's always going to be about like from, I say always, maybe, from about here down to your belly button, because the vagus nerve, it's closely related to that. But if you read, man, our standard of a book, The Body Keeps the Score, this is some of the stuff that he's talking about. The answers to the tests are out there. We just need to know where we need to be looking at. I don't want to build clients for a lifetime. I want people to learn skills so they don't have to come back, so they can manage the day-to-day better, or, and I'm sorry, not better, differently, so they have the experience that they want.
Well, better subjectively. How's that?
I would agree with that. If it's better for them.
Right. Because I think that the other part too that you just said, very good explanation of somatic. I think that that's good. Literally, probably within the first 10 minutes of every session with my therapist, we actually go through, all right, where are you feeling right now? Anything in your body?
Mm-hmm.
Can you breathe it out? And I do that stuff, and hopefully people know me enough that it's not like, this is not woo-woo shit that doesn't exist. It's all real stuff. And it really works fantastic. Although I curse you, Joe. You heard me, Joe. He doesn't listen to my podcast. He has no interest, probably. But Joe does that to me, and I really appreciate him, because I need someone to remind me of, did you pay attention to your body? You talk about Body Keeps the Score. I think that's one hell of a book, but I find that people either love it or hate it, but nothing in between. And typically, I think people who want to recognize some of the trauma and is also able to take the heaviness of the book, they'll be able to really enjoy the book. But if you're like, you get into denial or what's this crap and this and that, probably not for you anyway, probably not at the right spot. There's nothing wrong with that, just not at the right spot.
Just not ready yet. That's it.
I think that that's the other part too, is, it hasn't happened in a while, knock on wood, because it's going to happen because I said so. But I remember a time where I had someone, will not name the service, can you just cure me? I'm like, oh, let me go get the wand. Oh shit, it's upstairs. Oh, well, I can't cure you. Like, I've never cured a human being in my freaking life. I've given them a lot of fucking tools in order to cure themselves, or that's what they perceive it as. But I've never cured a human being. I think that that's one of the things that I'm happy to have a firefighter / therapist here saying the same exact thing as me. We're not here to cure anyone. I've never cured a human being, but I will help you and give you the tools that hopefully will help you feel better.
I use a similar phrasing, and when they ask, because the question's usually, can you fix me? I'm like, well, first of all, you're not fucking broken, because honestly, you're probably doing the things that you want to be doing in other areas. You're already doing those things either at the job or at home or someplace else. We just need to explore why it's so dang difficult to get those things applied into the areas that you want to get them applied in.
Right.
And how do we do that? Fuck if I know. We're going to have a conversation. And through that conversation, because we talked about that, it's about that relationship. It's about the little pieces. And here's a funny story. The firefighter listeners will appreciate this, and the therapist will too, but I'll just tell on myself a little bit. As you're first starting out as a therapist, you got to kind of navigate your own language a little bit and figure out some things, because you don't want it to be automatic or robotic. You want it to be more genuine and authentic. And so when we were talking earlier about, there's a lot of grist for the mill in just a normal everyday conversation, if you're listening. And when my clients are having a question and I'm taking that question on, like, hey, can we just fix the thing? Can we just go right? I know exactly what it is. Can we just get there? It's like, yeah, we can't because your system is designed to keep you safe. You haven't built up the skills yet for us to go through the front door. So if you just let me come in your back door, hang on a second, that's not what I meant actually. We're gonna come through the side door. We're gonna
Hey,
come through the
hey,
side
whatever,
door,
man. You invited me to a sauna. I'm just whatever, man. I accept everyone.
right? So learning that language, and my non-emergency responder clients, they don't. I was like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. And if I got a good solid emergency responder client, they're going to be like, you're going to come in my what?
Yeah.
No, 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 no. Let's back up. So trying to communicate to them that the most direct route may not be a straight line
In
because your
fact, it rarely
system,
is. But anyway.
right? Your system is going to protect this, right? But if you've got to tell this story, you're going to want to complete that story. You're going to graze over the top of that to get to this. This is what I'm interested in. And I think too many times therapists in the emergency responder world are so confident that they know what's going on, get really narrowly focused.
Right. Well, it's all trauma, right?
It's all
So
not today, Satan. You're not going to bait me in today.
it's not all trauma for the record. We're just being facetious here.
Yes.
No, and I think you're absolutely right. And that's why, like, for me, when I have younger clinicians who say, hey, what do you think I should do to really learn? I say, go work 2 years in a crisis team, a mental health crisis team. Any crisis team works. And well, what if I don't like it? Hate it for 2 years, doesn't matter, but you'll be able
Yeah.
to deal with anyone that comes in front of you because I've worked with a 3-year-old in an ER and I worked with a 98-year-old. And
Yep.
think about the middle ground, rich, poor, indifferent, whatever. I've worked with all of them. But you also learn that sometimes, like there's a first responder who once said to me, well, when I solve problems pretty quickly, I brought them to the emergency room and they're okay. And I'm like, no, that's not the story. There's a story that goes with that. Because if
Yeah.
someone needs their foot amputated, there's surgeries, there's complications, there's cleanup, and then they got to learn how to walk before they get fitted with a boot. There's like 14 that you don't need to deal with because you dealt with the problem in front of you. But therapy is
Yeah.
the same way. I'll deal with the problem in front of me. That doesn't mean there's other 15 steps that are going to come up in a few minutes. But being a
Uh-huh.
crisis clinician, you get that who wants quick, and then you say, okay, this was the quick version. Remember, there's a long version.
Yeah. Yeah. I communicate that same kind of expectation with all of my clients in a way that it's like, I want you to get your roof fixed. That's some breathing room through your normal week. And then once we get some breathing room and get some new skills developed, some new resources, then let's look at the foundation to see why the roof keeps leaking. And you're gonna want to leave. You're gonna get through the honeymoon phase, and you're like, I took 8 days of medicine. I'm feeling pretty good. I didn't need all 10 days. And then the snapback happens. And then we get a test. We get tested. Part of my internship, I would go out to a men's retreat, or excuse me, a men's treatment center. And I do believe because of my time in the fire service, my time as an instructor, presenter, all those things, my first intern site said, "Hey, we'd love for you to teach anything you want to teach out at the men's house or the women's house." We had both. And I said, "Great, just tell me what do you want me to teach?" And they said, "Anything you want." And I said, "Awesome, I'm so excited. What do you want me to teach?" And this
Right.
is where the structure of the fire service started kind of trickling in on the difficulty of the paradigm of choice.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do better if you just tell me what to do. So I ended up teaching for a whole lot of weeks. I don't know how many months now, but during my two semesters of internship, taught conflict resolution and communication skills. And a lot of that has evolved into a class that I offer to fire departments. We'll be rolling out this year of the fourth floor perspective,
Okay.
real talk for mental health in the fire service. And we talk about the big F word a lot.
Ooh,
feelings.
what? No, no, no,
I
no.
know,
Fuck,
right?
fuck, fuck, fuck.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you should see the clinicians' eyeballs raise when I go, we're going to talk about the F word today. And the
Yeah.
clinician's like, yeah,
Right. And it's funny is you bring so many good points. That's the other part too, is when I run a group and it's a first responder group, one of the things that they love to do is we talk about different things all the time, but not every week we do this, but once in a while, like I'll share, we'll talk about something. They're like, how would your fellow therapist react to this? I'm like, in horror, in absolute fucking horror. And again, that doesn't mean they're not good therapists, for the record. Again, I want to make sure we say that we're
yeah,
not shitting on therapists. It's just not their skill set,
right.
because there's a running joke in my group, because one day I was cleaning, because I'm a sole proprietor of my company. So I was cleaning and he's like, oh, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm the CEO, president, secretary, and maid. And so we walk into the group after. He goes, sorry, Steve, for the last 10 minutes, I've been picturing you in a fucking French maid outfit. And it's become a running joke. And I keep on feeding the joke. And
Yep,
people are like, and I've said that to other therapists, and like, they tell you they want to see you in a French maid outfit. And I'm like, you don't get it. It's okay. You don't need to get it.
yep,
I get it. You don't get it. That's okay. And I think that that's exactly what you're saying. Is sometimes you get in the immediacy is okay. You can be upset about it, but when you think about it, it's a really warm setting. Getting back to the point of what we were talking about, I love EMDR. I'm an EMDR provider myself. But if you come in and say, I just want to do EMDR, I say, okay, I'll give you someone who thinks that's going to solve all your fucking problems. Because EMDR itself does not solve people's problems. It'll make the trauma something they can go through a lot easier. But if you don't
yeah,
have the skill set prior or post, doesn't really fucking matter.
right, right. Yeah. I do get some of those and I'm finishing up my certification in EMDR and I only pursued that really because the site that I was working at was training other trainers and stuff. So I'm a blue collar guy through and through. So you're going to offer me up something for free. I'm probably going to take it. So I'm a sucker for a t-shirt. Like I'll do just about it. I'll do a lot of push-ups for a t-shirt. We go to FDIC and some of those conferences and yeah, there's a lot of free t-shirts being thrown away, right? So
Right,
I think what's interesting is some of that stuff is it doesn't have to be hard. It can just be relational. And I sit
right,
across from my clients and I communicate a similar message. And it doesn't matter, emergency responder or not. And it's an interesting dynamic because when I was still on the job, I'm working with some of my people that I'm seeing on the fire ground. I'm seeing them in the therapy room and on the fire ground. But what about duality and dual relationship and all those other things? Well, it's kind of simple. I don't have any business bringing up that shit here on the fire ground.
correct.
If I'm a battalion chief or if I'm an assistant chief, I'm not going to go, hey, Bob. I'm not going to do that. I got a fire to run, right?
Right. And you're
Now,
not going to say, Bob, tell me about your feelings.
right? So now if Bob needs to talk to me, I'm going to listen and I'm going to redirect because that's not the time or the place.
Right.
But I'm not going to sit there and shun him for it. And I'm certainly uh, not going to not see him because the fair amount of my emergency responder clients are only seeing me because they fucking know me.
Right.
They know me. We've been
And,
on
that,
the line together.
and that's why I think that duality that you talk about, I call it the gray zone. I think that that's what the gray zone of liability or the gray zone of ethics. If I
Yeah.
go and I see Johnny works with Jane in the same department, and Jane wants to suddenly go therapy. I say, okay, Jane, you got a referral from someone in the department. So it's obviously, we're not going to pretend that doesn't exist.
Yep.
If you're going to ask me about Johnny, this is over. I'm going to stop you. And there's no warning. I'm done with you. You're leaving.
Yep.
And same thing, since Johnny referred you, if Johnny ever asks about you, it's over. We cut it off. And that's
We're
how
done.
I keep that ethical boundary, because I'm not here to fucking gossip. If firefighters gossip really well, I'll let you fucking handle that one. But
Right.
for me, I don't gossip about my clients. And if you want to come in here and do that shit, no, there's no
Yep.
like the same thing with the group. People will share stuff in the group. With my rule, there's a few rules. We don't say sorry. And the other thing too is we can say anything in this room.
Yeah.
It's okay. You leave this room and you talk about it to someone else, I will never talk to you again. Never come to my group. I'm done with you.
Yep.
Because that's someone else's story. You want to tell your story? Go ahead. That's your story to tell. But you do not tell anybody's story. Even
Yep.
if he's from, oh, he's a department 2 hours away. I don't care. You do not share other people's shit. And
I have,
go
yeah,
ahead.
I have people driving 4 and 5 hours to connect with me who do not want to connect with me on a virtual platform.
Mm-hmm.
And confidentiality, obviously it was huge. It's huge for me. It was when I was going to therapy, and it was, and it still is, still going to therapy.
Good for
So
you.
every time it's once a month for 2.5 hours. And
Okay.
yeah, that's just how I work, and that's how my brain works. So
I'd
there's a
ask
lot
your
of
therapist if
ways,
you ever worked that way, but go ahead. I just want to
right?
put that in there because some people don't want to ask. Ask.
Ask, always ask. Unexpressed expectations is premeditated resentment.
Jesus Christ, that's a quote right there. That's a great quote.
I probably stole it from somebody, but yeah.
And no
Anyway,
one knows who it was. So.
yeah, there you go. That's why I got the pleasure of presenting at FDIC a couple of years ago,
Right.
and I have a leadership. It was on leadership and mental health, and kind of an all-encompassing. And I have a quote on my presentation that said, "Leadership is kind of like pornography. It's difficult to define, but we all know what it looks like."
Yeah.
But I think that confidentiality piece is big. You kind of spoke about this on suicide. I have responders and folks that will share with me they're feeling suicidal. They're feeling like they, want to hurt themselves. I ask very explicitly, very directly. I've asked that question a lot of times in my career, in both of my careers. But I've learned to ask the question is, do you want to kill yourself or do you just not want to be here right now? Because those things are different.
Right.
And as soon as we kind of navigate that, because you can see they're not sure. And then when I'm not trying to trick them to call the cops to come get them in the meantime, I'm not a big fan of that, by the way. Can we just talk about why you're feeling the way that you're feeling? And I promise you, before you leave, I'm going to feel good about you leaving, and you're going to feel good about you leaving, or I'm going to have somebody come and get you.
Right. And I think the other part too, I'm with you about the hospitals.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah.
one of the things I tell most of my clients now for the last few years is like, if you tell me you're homicidal, suicidal, you know the ones we have to talk about.
Yeah.
I tell them, I said, but I've heard all of them at one point in my career, so I'm not going to bat an eyelash. And the last thing I ever want to do is send you to a hospital. That's the last absolute thing. Hospitals have good intentions. Unfortunately, they don't have the resources. So I'm not putting down hospitals. I'm just saying that it's not, you're better off staying at home and coming in twice a week with me or coming once a week for 2 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
Always ask, by the way. But I think
100%.
that's what I'm the same way about hospitals. So I get it. And I say to people that we all have expressions that we use. Sometimes, I've had clients who are like, some days I just want to fucking kill myself. Then you see if you go to YouTube, they open their eyes. I'm like, yeah, don't worry. I understand the difference between an expression and you saying, I bought a gun, I bought these bullets, and at 2 o'clock today, I'm fucking offing myself. Okay,
Yeah.
that's different.
Can you hold this note for me? I'll see
Right.
you later.
I know the difference. And they
Yeah.
always laugh and like, oh, you get it. I'm like, yeah, I'm not wasting. Frankly, I don't want to waste the hospital. I don't want to waste your energy. More importantly, police and fire, as much as I joke around about certain things, they're busy. Your fucking little section 12, as we call it in Massachusetts, I know they have all different names, different states.
Yeah.
It's really sometimes a fucking burdensome for them to do. I'd
Yeah.
rather keep the resources in the community, but again, I'll do it if I have to. I've
Yeah.
even my other line that I say is, but if you leave here and you still want to bomb an airport, believe me, I'll tackle you myself, hold you down. If you hated me for the rest of my life, I'll live with myself. I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that. I'm
So,
okay with that.
and most people respond to that too. And I think that what you just described is exactly what I think the therapists who work with first responders get. Be real, be yourself, call people on their shit sometimes, and sometimes let people have whatever they have to do. And it's hard to explain when to do what, but with enough experience, you get it significantly better to do so.
It's not about being perfect. It's about being present. I don't know
Right.
what's going to connect with this individual. I'm listening to everything. I'm not jumping on the low hanging fruit because that that's not why we're here.
Right.
Um, and early on in my career as a therapist, because Adam had a bit of a reputation in the firehouse, and I had a strong desire that people performed at their best ability. And if you couldn't, it didn't mean I didn't like you. I think you're a great person. I just think you need to be a better firefighter, and I'm going to help you. Not like I'm asking you to do it yourself. And, with my clients, all of my clients, they have my personal cell phone number. You need something, you shoot me a text. You can call me, but I'm probably not going to answer that phone call. I'm a Gen Xer. I'm definitely not going to answer that phone call. But if you don't have an expectation that I get to you right away and I can show up how I want to show up, because it's also important for me after 30 years of starting to feel like a human again to continue feeling like a human. And it costs too much. If I show up for you, Steve, and I'm trying to hurry and get back to you because I've been in session all day, it's going to cost too much. If I don't respond correctly or hastily, and I'm sitting there trying to drive and text because it's been 6 hours and I don't want you to feel let down, I don't want to feel like I let you down. That's projection. I
Mm-hmm.
may let you down, but I'm going to let you tell me that I've let you down instead of me guessing that I've let you down.
Well, I'm a D generation Xer. Is that the same thing? I see the Funko
Um,
Pops, but I'm a
yeah,
D
yeah.
generation Xer. Uh, so I get it. Yeah,
Seeing
exactly.
Triple H on the podium is weird. I'm just waiting for the
I'm waiting for the cross chop too, but I don't know what's gonna happen.
yeah,
But I'm from that too. I'm like, where I find that our generation in general is truthful, straight to the point, and a lot better in that way. Sometimes we kind of forget to be nice. Sometimes I think that
yeah,
happens, but we're getting better at it. We're just
yeah,
practicing. Number one,
yeah,
and number two, you I want to say the same thing you said, but in different words. What my clients want, they don't want me to be perfect. They don't want me to have an answer to everything. They want me to be human and do the best I can with what I have. And some days I'm on the ball, I'm like on fire. And there's days just because I'm a human, maybe I'm tired, maybe I'm had a fight with my girlfriend, maybe I had blank, who knows? I'm not
yeah,
hydrating enough.
yeah.
And if people can respect that therapists are humans too, that's another part of a great, healthy relationship. People say, well, you can't project your shit on them. I'm not projecting shit on them. I'm just having a rough day. It's okay. I don't see the ethical book that says you can't have a rough day.
Right.
So
I think, and I love what you said there. It's just so important. If a big portion, and if you're in this population and if you've been in it and around it for a while, there's a couple of different schools of thought. And then demographically and geographically, vastly different from end to end of the country. But there's a kind of a subgroup that, the certificates don't mean shit at 3 in the morning.
right.
And we have a lot of clinicians that are looking for certification. And some of us are still trying to push ride alongs and getting to know people, but that takes extra work and effort. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's not easier to sit in that class, but it's easier in the way of I don't have to interact with other humans. And if you want to know the fire service, you need to sit at that kitchen table. You need to sit on the back of that apparatus in that bay, shooting the breeze with the guys, shooting the shit, taking a lump or two, giving a lump or two,
Right.
busting some chops.
You need to be real. And in Massachusetts, I can only speak intelligently about our area because I don't know everywhere. Some departments beg me to, can you come to the firehouse, just hang out at the table? If we're on a call, just sit around, have a coffee, whatever. Just can we have that? And the
Yeah,
police are now like, they're happy to have what we call jail diversion program, which has changed names 4 times. So I don't know what the name of it this week
yeah,
is. But you're a ride along. You're sitting next to a cop going on a real call. And sometimes they're not related to mental health, sometimes they are, but then you know what they go through. And
yeah,
the most important thing is sitting around the table, going on those calls. You get to see the human that does the work.
yeah,
And when people say, they don't like police or they don't like this,
yeah,
stop thinking about them as roles. Think about it as humans. and then realize the shit they got to go through. Because at 3 a.m. when you call because you can't get out of bed because your back's locked up, well, they showed up, didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a big challenge for our emergency responder clients too, because when we ask them, like, hey, that lift assist call, that, whatever it is call that you don't find is all that important, do you feel like that's heroic? And of course, all of them will virtually say no. Ironically, though, when you challenge that and go, well, who else is doing it? Who else is putting the care and the effort and showing up like that's your own grandmother showing, picking them up off the ground? And what's crazy is we'll bitch about those non-cool calls, right? But much like therapists, that's people's only choice. You are people's last line of choice. I've went on a lot of lift assist calls. Can you put sunburn lotion on me? I mean, it just it's crazy. But the reality of it is they called us at 2 o'clock in the morning because they tried to deal with it themselves this whole time.
Right.
And we might get on the apparatus when we show up at 3 o'clock in the morning for that smoke detector battery, or 4 o'clock in the morning for a lady's cell phone battery that died. That's what the beeping was. And we see all those things and we smile. But the reality of it is they couldn't take it anymore. No, they've been taking it from about 12 o'clock on.
Right.
And you are their last line of defense. And you're treating it as some bullshit. Look, I'm not saying you're changing the world right now at 4 o'clock in the morning. I get it. But just because you're not being happy doesn't mean that you have to be mad either. You can just go do your job, be courteous, and go home, go back to bed. And what's really cool about that is if you're in the Northeast and you're working with firefighters, you better know what the term good jakes are, because if you don't know what that term is, you're going to be way behind.
Yeah, and that's so common also with one of the things like they say about people who say they're culturally competent with first responders and then say, well, we were at roll call when a bunch of Jakes showed up and they're like, you just spoke Japanese to me. And they
Yeah.
don't understand what's that. Well, how can you call yourself someone who's worked with first responders if you don't know what it is? And
Right.
I don't know how long your hoses are, but when you start saying, again, I'm going to throw numbers out that I probably know are wrong. Oh, I was carrying a 55 or a 45 or whatever. I know kind of what that means. I don't know exactly, but I get the idea. I don't need to
Yeah.
45 what? No, I know what that meant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that that's the stuff about cultural competency is so important, and being able to meet people where they're at. Because if they have to respond, like, and I've had someone say that there's a therapist who is expert in first responders. They said, what do you mean you were on a call? They gave you a phone call directly? I'm like, holy shit, really? And he's like, yeah, I wish I was joking, Steve. So,
Uh,
like, no, that's the other part too about being around the table, being in the co-response chair or whatever you want to call it, is
yeah.
being able to learn all that, those little intricacies. A
Yeah.
DUI sucks because the fucking paperwork sucks. I get it. But someone else will hear that, like, oh, they're complaining about this and they're trying to keep the community. No, you got to understand.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, he's a DUI. He did the breathalyzer. It doesn't work that way. Oh, it was a transport. It was just a transport from the hospital because they were having difficulty breathing. No, it's not just a transport because there's paperwork. You got to still go through the whole,
The
the
receiving
whole
agency doesn't want the patient or doesn't have room for the patient, or there's a miscommunication. And then we have,
fucking Johnny hates to go to hospital XYZ, but
right,
Johnny has to
right.
go there because that's the closest one. And then those are the things that people don't quite get if you're not sitting around the table. Because then when they say like, we got Lucy again, her fucking oxygen dropped to 85.
Right.
And again, I don't need to explain what that meant to you, but there's some people who
Yeah.
don't understand what I just said.
Yeah.
And that's the point, is that you don't get to know this shit if you don't sit around the table and get to know it.
Right.
And again, I don't think my guys might, sometimes they'll say stuff I don't know and I'll go like, I'll be perfectly honest, I have no clue what you just said. But because I've shown competency everywhere else, they're like, oh yeah, that's not your world. I get it.
Yeah. There's actually more competency in the fact that you asked the question.
Right. But I think
Um,
but if it's basic stuff that you do every day and you're asking questions and you're an expert, I
yeah,
think that's where people lose
definitely.
confidence in your treatment.
I would not disagree. And I think in some of that aspect, and I'm next month actually presenting at the Missouri Mental Health Conference.
Oh, okay.
Um, it's clinical considerations working with emergency responders, and the subtitle is bringing cultural competency into the therapy room. And really, a lot of that really kind of helps us build those relationships quicker when we can use that terminology and we know what we're talking about. Breaking it down really easy. It's like, are you assigned to an engine or a ladder? Well, that some of that depends if what part of the country you're in. Because some places don't call it a ladder; they call it a tower or an aerial. Or and we don't get that far into the weeds. It's a ladder truck, an engine. We're not getting into hose wagons or those kinds of things.
And sometimes
Pumpers,
just on the ambulance for that night.
right? Right. And are we talking about a fire district, a volunteer, a paid on call, a subscription and dues? I mean, it just kind of
County,
goes on and on.
county, city, town. There's a lot of different types.
A lot of different types.
And you got to
Um,
be like, I know the regional words, so
know
I
your
can get
area.
away with that.
Yeah.
But I think that that's what I mean. Like if I went to Missouri, I'd probably have to sit down and go, hey, can I just go sit in a couple of firehouses, a couple of police departments, so I can understand the language here? Because
Yeah.
you guys in Missouri, particularly, I know is a more of a county-based police system, where for here the counties in Massachusetts have zero fucking like they they're
Yeah.
the jails here. That's what the
Right.
cat. Do they have
Yeah.
some? They do, but ultimately they're jails, and that
But
depends if you're in St. Louis or if you're like down in I don't know all the small towns in Missouri, but you're in a smaller town in Missouri.
well, I live in a pretty small town. Don't tell nobody that they live in a small town, but I don't live in a very big town. But I think a lot of that is the density populations, right?
Correct.
Our counties have a sheriff's office that's got, 30 to 50 patrol officers, the jail, some aspects, the telecommunications center, and also in those things. So knowing your area, I know your area to some degree because I have really good friends that work in that area. And if you want to know what it's like to work with federal firefighters in Hawaii, well, I know Shane in Hawaii that can also in it, right? There's not a person almost in this country that works in a state that I can't call up and go, hey, I've got a clinician that would like to come do a ride along, but they don't know who to call or how to get started. Well, we're not even asking those questions, unfortunately. So I think in some of that aspect is I think the competency from this profession is important, but it also takes a ton to work in the other profession, to work with emergency responders. And I think it just when you try to balance your schedule, and I don't know how your schedule is, but mine can be kind of crazy. I know how many people I see in a week and a month and all those, and I'm in private practice. Nobody tells me who or when or any of those things, right? So I think it's interesting that when we have those helpful comments or suggestions in the Facebook group, and it's like, yeah, but give me the 40-hour class. Yeah, but you doing a ride along, and if you don't believe me, look at some of the rock stars in this industry. What are they doing? They're doing ride alongs and they're meeting with people.
Right.
So, yeah,
And private practice, I mean, I get it. I certainly am in private practice myself, so I get that.
yeah,
And there's so much I can say, and again, I worked for about a year in Vermont, in very rural Vermont. Not that most of Vermont is not rural, but and that was a different way of working with first responders than it is when I'm in suburbia slash urban Boston area. And
yeah,
then within, an hour and a half of Boston, you have some rural areas that are not quite Vermont rural, but rural for Massachusetts. And it's a whole different ballgame, you
yeah.
know? And, mutual aid is big in those smaller towns. And if you don't
Hmm.
know the word mutual aid, then you're fucked.
Yeah, yeah.
So, anyway,
We're
I
gonna
can go
spend
on and
40
on.
minutes explaining it.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want that. Like, there's like, oh, we did mutual aid with Franklin. I know
Yeah,
what that means, but if you're like not, you haven't been in a ride along, you haven't been with you don't, what the fuck is mutual aid? Someone needed CPR in the department? No, 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 no. Anyway,
yeah.
I knew this would happen. I really liked our
Oh yeah.
connection from the top. We'll see what we can do. Maybe we'll end up having 2 episodes out of this. So I appreciate it, Adam. But,
I
I
appreciate
want
you.
people, I wish I could go to that conference because I believe in the cultural competency part.
Yeah.
But since I can't go there, how do I, like, not only me, but for my audience, how do we reach you? You said you had a new website.
Yeah. Have a new website. I'm on Facebook. My private practice is called In a Good Space. And the belief is that if you're good, it doesn't matter what environment you're in, you're going to be good. And my little logo, I thought it was important. It took 2.5 years for me to decide on something because I wanted it to be right. And it's an atom. And sometimes the jokes just tell themselves, right? But atoms are everywhere. And the idea is that if I'm feeling good and I know who I am, I know what I represent, I know what I stand for, it doesn't really matter what environment I'm in. So in a good space is that's the idea. And the so Facebook, the Instabook, Facegram, social media stuff.
All right,
Yeah,
Bill
I'm on
Belichick. All right,
all of that.
Belichick.
And my website is a great way.
All right. And
So
what's the www?
a goodspacetherapy.com.
So please go to that website. It'll be in the show notes if you want to click on it.
Yeah.
And the other part too, I want to say, besides, we'll get back to that. Thank you. But logos. When you said Adam,
Yeah.
all I can think of is your name, and I'm like,
Yep.
oh, did he do that on fucking purpose?
Not on purpose, but sometimes the jokes just tell themselves.
That's what I
Yep.
mean. It's like no, like, okay, like
Yeah.
again, joking us, not really, Chelsea. I'm joking, but oh yeah, added that part. We're just gonna make it sound cool. I'm
Yeah.
kidding. Please leave it as is. Don't change it.
Yeah.
But Adam, if I'm ever in Missouri, I want to go see you, but I know I'll have to figure out where your town is.
Yeah.
But I will go see you. I wish I could go to that conference. Awesome stuff.
I appreciate that. I do a lot of work with the fools. If your listeners know what the fools, I do free conference, the fourth floor perspective class that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
My office is on the fourth floor now. In a beautiful downtown Springfield, Missouri. I'm between Springfield and Branson. I live in a small town called Nixa, just south of Springfield, but I teach the fourth floor perspective class for free, just logistics to get me where I need to be. I can sleep on a firehouse couch, a bed, somebody else's couch or bed. The work is too important. After September, when I teach at this conference, they're supposed to assign me some continuing education credits because my class also includes responding to personal crisis of emergency responders. So it hits a lot of that suicide credential for our field after September. So hopefully I'll be able to get some peer groups together with local therapists and there be something for everybody there.
I was going to ask you OEMS or for therapists, but it sounds like it's for therapists.
Yeah, it's actually it will be for both once I get
good.
that CEU part. But honestly, if I'm speaking to peer groups or Fools Fraternal Order of Leatherhead Society, for those who don't know, sometimes when I speak or I'm talking about my background, I'm a firefighter, or if you don't know, emergency responder. That's for those who aren't in the business. But teaching those classes for free, and then if we can reach out to some local therapists. I don't know I'm sure you do know who Dr. Yalom is.
Of course.
Of course, right? I didn't know who he was.
I actually met the guy, so.
Nice. Well, that's a pretty awesome thing.
Exactly.
I got done reading his book, The Matter of Life and Death, and I was so moved by the book. I looked him up. He was still alive, and I sent him an email. And the funny thing about that is when I was sharing that in my group supervision, they were all blown away that I just sent Dr. Yalom an email. I'm like, well, he's just a dude,
just a human,
just a human. And they're like, oh, well, you should have him on our podcast. The place that I worked at hosted the podcast. Notice That. I don't know if you've ever heard of that podcast.
Can't say that I have. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's an EMDR podcast. It's a pretty amazing podcast. But they said, oh, you should email him again and invite him on the podcast. And I said, yeah, okay. What would we talk about? And then they're just talking, and I'm like, okay, cool. I just send him an email, so we'll just see what he says. And they're just blown away by that. And it's just funny because I think a lot of therapists confuse confidence with arrogance in this field. And those individuals that get on that truck, that get into that car, that sit at that console, already know they're going to win, because if they don't,
Right.
they ain't going to do it.
Well, and Dr. Irvin Yalom, for those who don't know, has a couple of great books. And one of the books that I was able to talk to him about is Becoming Myself, which was a
Great
really
book.
good book.
Yeah.
So, and when I say met him virtually, I didn't meet him. He's in Israel most of the time. But really good dude. Anyway, thank you, Adam. Truthfully, let me know when you can come back, probably like this winter or something. I'd love to have you back, man. Really good
I would love to be
conversation.
back on. It's great
Because
to
if you
talk
could
to.
explain, if you explain Enneagrams for the first responder world, because I think I can explain it, but I would be a little more therapeutic. So I think for the first responder world, there's a different language that they'd get. And I think that would be perfect for another subject for us to talk about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. And see you at episode 223.
Please like, subscribe, and follow this podcast on your favorite platform. A glowing review is always helpful. And as a reminder, this podcast is for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. If you're struggling with a mental health or substance abuse issue, please reach out to a professional counselor for consultation. If you are in a mental health crisis, call 988 for assistance. This number is available in the United States and Canada.